Hey, look, Hannah, remember to share my screen.
Good job.
Because you're so smart, Billy.
Billy, have you watched the kids show Gravity Falls?
Yeah, I've seen it. It's good. I like Adventure Time
Mm-hmm.
just because it's so wacky and unusual. Going backwards in time. I was a huge Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends fan. I just love that show. Unbelievably great writing, really fun, and Blue is just the greatest sarcastic character of all time. Yeah. All right. This is Santiago. Okay, good. You're still working on it. Are you with us, Santiago? Senor Santiago? Santiago? Is he chatting? I can't see my chat at the moment. No. I think this is working. I think that you didn't follow my cue about putting a black card at the very last frame, because now we're stuck on this pose. You see what I mean? This is exactly what I mean, everybody. So I think this head turn is really flat. If I put this little marker here right at your character's chin and I frame through this, you can see that the head turn only dips just like a little bit or hardly anything at all. I think you need to make that more pronounced. The head turns always happen on an arc. Always, always, always. I think that you need to hold the squint longer. When he's squinting here, when he's looking, hold it longer. That's what your character's thinking. That's where, what the hell am I looking? Oh my God. And then the reaction is the realization of what they're looking at. All right, clapping for Santiago. Uzeli. Okay. Too fast. Zaylee, too fast. I think the poses are there. And this is the other part of what I want to put out there is that we've only watched this once. You have 2 seconds worth of animation. Remember, I told you last week that don't be afraid to push it to 5, because it's just all about timing and keyframing. So I'm just going to go to the beginning frame here, and your character is fine. I'm just going to nose through this. A blink. So this could be a technical issue, but I think that you might find that it's going to work better here, Saley, is if you separate this. So have your character looking, have them blink, have them reopen their eyes here. Have the character reopen his eyes, then let his breath out, then do his head turn. I'm just going to check this. And your head turn really should be more pronounced on an arc as well. It's the idea of dipping your head, dipping your chin. This is fine. You're studying as much exaggeration as you can put into this. That's fine. And then the recoil, I think that you want to go to stretch, squash, that's fine. And then I think that, so you're progressing, I think that you're gonna wanna ease into this frame right here. You wanna probably 2 or 3 drawings between this and this. So you're gonna ease into it. Remember that the ease is a technical principle of animation. And then just ending on the black card. And performance is looking okay, but at speed though, this is way too fast. It's way too fast. So drag it out. Figure out where those keys work best in time. That's your first thing that you need to do. All right, hands for Zaley. Okay. So there's a couple of things that I'm seeing. First is I think this has a pretty good appeal. And an appeal is that elusive principle of animation that's hard to get at sometimes. It's hard to like nail down the identifiable factors that make something completely timeless or having a high production value. So, and your drawings are good, but what I'm seeing here though is I don't see the take. I don't see the reaction. And I think that you can isolate something and still put that in there. Your character's looking away from screen, that's fine. We're gonna nose through this. So she does her head turn on a nice arc. That's good. That's like a really great head turn right there. So that's all fine. And then this, to me, is appearing to be a settle into this pose. So from these keys right here, where she's following that little flying creature, that little fairy, now she's settling into this is a main key. And I'm still going forward. So I'm not sure about these poses right here. I think that what you should do is have this be a main key. And the thing that she's looking at off screen, we already know that it's that blue flying thing. Have her do the take here. What? You know, and maybe something happened. Maybe that thing killed a dinosaur. Or maybe a dinosaur killed it. Something happened that makes her, what? Makes her do the reaction here. And then I think that you could have her still looking that way, as opposed to kind of breaking the fourth wall. I don't think that you would want to break the fourth wall here. And have you ever heard that before?
Yeah. When she's like looking at the people watching the screen.
Yeah, don't break the fourth wall. It's hard to say that these days for me being a teacher in a classroom full of kids that grew up on The Office, right? Or, you know, one of the first movies that you might have ever watched was When Harry Met Sally with Tom Hanks. I'm not getting a reaction. Because in that movie, they break the fourth wall a whole bunch of times. They do it intentionally. They put them in a sound room and they're like, oh, well, you know, we met when we were 14. And The Office, they break the fourth wall just like 20 times in an episode. It's part of the appeal of that TV show. But for here, don't break the fourth wall. Just have her keep looking off to her left, our right, and have her do the take right here. What? And then remember to change the expression at the end. Maybe it was something good that happened or something tragic that happened. So, and instead of doing this, instead of doing that, which is, it's fine, but the idea is to do a reaction. Hannah, everybody. Oh, okay, so that was weird. I don't know why it did that. Remember, black card at the end, everybody. And really, truly, you could have a black card at the front of the shot too, so that we're not looking at this pose for 4, 5, 6 seconds while I talk and ramble on before I hit the play button. Okay, so the actions are really good right there. Oh, there is a black card. Sorry. So the reaction's really good. The little giggle is fine. And remember, at this point, what I would like to do is remind everyone that what you're doing at this point is only half of the impact of what would be on a final screen. The motion, the dynamics, the animation is only half of the impact. What's the other half? Half of the impact is the animation, the movement. What's the other half?
Appeal?
Say it louder.
Appeal?
No, it's the sound, the voice, the sound, the music. Did I say that to you already? Anybody? It might be the first time I said it. Half the impact is the animation, half of the impact is the sound. So if she's giggling at the end, oh, wait, oh, whatever you pick. So this is really good. It's textbook. It's good. Yep, it looks good. I just want to check one thing. I want to make sure that you're, yeah, the dip in the head turn is fine. So this is good mechanics. The timing is good. Good. Brianna, everybody. Hands for Brianna. Okay. Oh, I think I did that same thing with my mouse again. Let's watch this one more time. Okay. I don't know why it does that. My mouse is just really sensitive. So a couple of things. I think this is working fairly well. I am not 1000% convinced that working with a drawing or two or a keyframe or two that has a medium amount of detail in it as a rough, and then going into poses that are just merely gestures. Because I think that what happens is your eye gets tricked into seeing things that you didn't want your audience to see. So if you're going to toggle between these two poses, as an animator, you would want the audience to follow the actions of her left hand, for instance. And if you want the audience to follow that left hand, you gotta put it in there. And I think that the idea would just be consistency. So work like this for all of it to get your sense of timing, and then put a tie down on top of it. So back to the top of the key, she turns. I think that's too fast. I think her turn is too fast. So let that linger. Let the drawings that you have linger for at least 4 times longer for the turn than you have right now. Sometimes it's hard to get this to read when your face is in the hat, which is in a side view. it's not the most optimal place to show acting. It's always best to have things in 3/4. All right, so that's her squash. That's her stretch. And her recoil. And her settle. Don't break the fourth wall. I didn't mention this last week, but it's just usually not good cinema to break the fourth wall, even for one drawing. Just favor one or the other, or get your eyes to lead. If she's turning to her left, our right, in this frame here, then have the eyes lead. Have her eyes move to the left so that she doesn't ever break the fourth wall. And I think the only thing really is that that's a passing keyframe, and that you hold on it too long so that not only are you breaking the fourth wall, but you're making the audience feel like they did something wrong because she's frowning at us. Watch it again. So, so this is good in terms of experimenting with the timing, playing with the timing, but I think that you've got some work to do here in making sure that this is a passing key and that she doesn't just, that she's just not angry at the camera. All right, you got that?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Ria. Oh, sorry. Hands. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Shoot. Oh, okay. All right, Damien. Damien, you're not in class last week, and so this, I think you're in that group where you try to work too clean, where the very first frame of you're unwilling to try to work rough, and because of that, you're like trying to lay down these final lines and try to get everything done at once. I think that you should try to work rough and gesturally and with the line of action. You know, my test that I had looked like that, and it is rough. It doesn't. It definitely needs a tie down on top of it. But you missed the take. You know, he looks, and then he comes back, and he's breaking the fourth wall too. And now I'm kind of trying to figure out why multiple of you are breaking the fourth wall. Don't do this. But yeah, you missed the take. When he's over here, you should be like, what did I just see? I just saw an old lady smash a car in half or something. All right, and then because you're trying to work too clean, your character goes off model like a lot. So like here, it's strange to have a character that the ears are higher than the eye. And then now here the ears are just below the eye. And it's like every time you draw him, he changes character. So you want to work rough and define your character so that you're not just morphing the character for no reason. You do want the squash and stretch dynamic in there. You definitely want to see as much exaggeration as you can get, right? But you do want to return and stay on model. That's why you were doing character design. All right, hands, please. So, so Damien, are you here? I think you're here right now, right? So yeah, go back and look at the lecture for last week on YouTube, and you have to do that take. You have to do the squash and stretch part of it. All right, thank you, Damien. Jeanette. Okay, good. This is a great start. Remember to put that black frame in there so we're not looking at this for too much time. You start out good. I think that you would want to actually hold this a little longer. I think you blast out of that keyframe just a little too fast. Okay, yeah, this is good. Remember I suggested like doing a little bit of acting at the end. Like he's like, what the heck, you know, both hands, like, what was I looking at? Oh my God, what happened to grandma? And it helps too that if you write down a little bit of narrative about what's going on off screen, so that helps you. But your dynamics look okay. Remember your blinks. We'll reiterate that again today. All right, so this is a really great start. Thank you, Jeanette. Really great start. All right, and Randy.
Yep.
Well, this is weird. Why does it say late?
Oh, because the date was moved or due on the 21st of April.
It was?
Yeah, mine says the same thing too.
All right, I'm not going to pay attention to that. Okay, your mechanics are okay. Remember that black card. Remember, you got to put that black card in there. All right, so are these supposed to be glasses on this guy?
Yes.
All right, I want to check something here. Something's catching my eye. So you have a very minimal dip for the head turn. Remember, you want to get as much down on the arc as you can. Get that chin, the head, get it to come down when it's going through the head turn itself. So your turn is very minimal. It reads a little more like an arc because there's a rise here at the 26th, 27th frame mark. I think that you could experiment with this just a little bit more. I think you could add quite a bit more squash and stretch. This is fun. There's a big difference in spacing between this pose and this pose. It's almost like you want to make everything a little bit smaller so that you can get more of this pose in the stage, if you know what I mean. And then, yeah, you're going to need a couple of drawings between this and this to settle. And then remember that little bit of acting that I suggested at the end. All right, Randy, everybody, hands for Randy. Hands for Randy. It's Rachel. Okay, so this is reading pretty well. This is a head rotation instead of a head turn. And there's a discrete difference in animation where every head turns always happen on an arc. And you really have to get the shoulders involved with the head turn. It's even more helpful when you're doing the head turn to put the shoulders into the down position too, because then you're bringing everything with it. In this example here, she's just doing a head rotation. In fact, you don't even move the shoulders at all. So what happens is this ends up reading as limited animation because of that. And I think you are working too clean as well. Don't be afraid to work roughly and get the lines to move, get the performance to move and be timed correctly. And then go back and rub it down, tie it down later. I think the eye movements are fine. But yeah, I think that not only are you cheating at the head turn with this like head rotation with a whip, with these little speed lines in there, zip, zip. It's a form of like American style anime, which are trying to be very limited. What I'm trying to get at is getting the whole character involved here. And in order to do that, you're probably going to need to work a little bit more rough. I think the timing is okay. The little squash and stretch is okay. It's a degree or two less than what I had given you last week, but that's fine. A couple of things to kind of pay attention to. If we see the thickness of her arms here, you know, her thickness of her arms are really juicy, and you're committed to this because you've cleaned it up, quote unquote. And then like in these frames right here, her arms are really long and thick. And so they go off model. And then when you get to this, they shrink. So they're really long and chubby. And then when you get to here, they shrink. And you can see it in the motion. Watch when she starts animating with her hands at the end. You can feel that, oh, so you have to pay attention to the arcs, pay attention to the rotation of the elbows, just kind of like we did in our walk and our run. So get your arc of motion going up from the elbows, both of them, and from where the wrists would be, because those hands get really long there for a frame or two. The timing is good. Try to work more rough. All right. Rachel, everybody. All right, I didn't quite see the take in there, Evelyn. Or the head turn, really. I mean, the head does kind of go to the side a little bit. So your head goes up and it continues to rise. And then it dips down again. And then it rises again and goes off to the right. So you do have an arc that goes up for your head. But in order to get this to read, I think that what you should do here is, instead of like just bringing his head back like this, right? Right here you should do his reaction. Right here is where you want to do the what? You know, this is where you do the squash and stretch. What? And then he can be really angry at it. And then he can sniff at it again and like, ah. Yeah, but you have to put the reaction. Put the reaction in right here. All right, hands for Evelyn, please. All right, did anybody upload while we were discussing?
I updated my run cycle and put that in the
Okay,
slash missing area.
all right. So, and I got your note, right? Your email?
Maybe, I'm not sure if
I thought it was you that emailed me.
don't think so.
So you put it in the, oh, I just went backwards.
I put it in the late slash missing because the
Okay,
submission was closed.
okay. You put it here? I think that's the, I only have one.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so let's go back to it. All right, and this is, that was Elsa, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
I turned one in. It's just really,
Did
it's
you
very
forward-
rough.
This says car.
No,
Yes, it does.
well,
It says car edit.
I turned one in that was for ED.
Yeah, we already saw that one.
No, that's not what I turned in though. Well, we don't have to go over my.
I don't know. This is late missing.
Oh,
And
maybe it's.
Santiago, do we see these already? Yeah, we might not have seen that. That looks okay. I don't remember if we saw that one and then. Oh yeah, we saw these. All right, so maybe, did you put it somewhere else, Elsa?
I turned it into the head turn reaction and it says it
Alright.
turned in at 7
All right,
p.m.
let's take a look.
Okay, it's really not done, so.
I wasn't expecting them to be, remember. Okay, I think that you got a good start here, but if we just dissect this, and remember, this is the chin, right? So I'm gonna go through this.
Yeah, I couldn't get the character to look the same. I think I need to simplify it, but like, it seems like they look like drastically different bears every single time I drew it.
Well, that's because you did that way. So you
Mhm.
start out by just animating
A circle head.
ovals. Think about them as three-dimensional shapes.
Yeah.
And then squash and stretch. So I think it's there. Let me take a look at your timing. Yeah, I think that you could use more of a definite down position on the head turn itself,
Mhm.
but the timing is looking okay. I think that the hand comes up here too fast at the end.
This is a doodle.
No, I'm just looking at the hand. I don't care what this is. But the hand is coming up too fast at the end. You know, think about it like taking a full 32 frames. So just do like 1, 2, 3 positions that take 32 frames and then hold it. Let us see what he's thinking. Like he's rubbing his head like, what did I just see? Milk is never on sale. You know, whatever his narrative is. All right, thank you, Elsa. All right, anything else right now? Anything? All right, let's take our break. 8:15. Come back to me at 8:15, please. Take a break. All right, everybody. So I wanted to do a couple of things. One is I wanted to expand on our head turn and reaction just a little bit. And then I want to spend the second part of the discussion just talking about what you're going to do for your final. And so remember, we kind of alluded to this last week that one of the first people to ever teach this class at Kenyatta College was John Hayes. And he was the owner of Wild Brain. He had graduated Cal Arts in whatever 1980, 1992 or 3 or something. And almost immediately started working at Colossal Pictures up here in San Francisco. And Colossal Pictures was not only a production house for 2D and 3D animation, stop motion animation. They did live action stuff. They were doing commercials and games and cartoons for TV. They were doing everything. They just had their hands in everything. And I think that what happened was that they just got too big. Even the Mythbusters people were involved with Colossal Pictures at one point. I actually worked with Jamie for a little while because they were doing the fabrication for the stages for the stop motion commercials that they would do. And the Wild Brain people spun out of there. And it was those 3 people, Phil Robinson, John Hayes, and Jeff Fino, who just said, you know, this place is crazy. They're not taking care of their employees as well as we would like. And so they created Wild Brain in 1995. And by 1996, they were already established doing commercials and games. And they got too big too. They did the same mistake that Colossal Pictures had done. And then they closed in 2001. Which is kind of how I became a teacher. like, oh shit, what am I gonna do now? I've been animating for the last 15 years, working up the ladder and trying to get as many animated shots as I can. And then the next thing you know, that they were closing down. It was a hard transition to make between animating and then doing nothing. And by then the 08 recession, we were still really feeling it at that point. And so when John Hayes was doing this class, I don't remember, I don't know if any of you had ever had the chance to get into the drawing lab in the technically the 3rd floor, even though it was still called 213. But Paul had this idea that, and I think that he was right, that if you were all buying the regular animation paper, that it would be too expensive, because a bond of animation paper, 500 sheets, was costing somewhere between $28 and $32, depending on where you found it. And some of my students that were working in 2D at the Art Institute found like that there were a couple of grades of paper, and one of them was a really, really cheap paper where they could get it for like $18 or $19 for a ream. But if you even erased on it once, it just ruined your paper. So working in 2D was very demanding and tiresome. And at that point, John still had stacks of all the assignments that he had handed out for this class. And one of them was doing a flour sack drop. And I don't remember mentioning it to you before, but I always kind of look at the flour sack test as kind of a advanced test rather than something that you would want to handle in an intro to 2D animation class. And there was a couple reasons for that. The first reason was that at a major studio, Paramount, MGM, Warner Brothers, Disney, any studio, Klasky Csupo, any of them, Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, those were a little later. Those probably didn't have the same kind of thing. But as an animator working up through the ladder in those studios, you got hired as probably a production assistant or an intern or a volunteer, and you just worked your way on up the ladder. You did art room assistant. You might have done ink and paint for a little while, and then you did assistant work or 2D special effects, and then character stuff, and then maybe you became an assistant, and then you did some lead key stuff, and then you animated a little while, and then after 5 or 6 years, you took an animation test, and that test was always the same thing. It was just do your flour sack, and it's an unwritten test. It was like you had to take a flour sack and animate it. And the idea was to entertain an audience, get the audience to laugh or cry with just a simple rectangular flour sack animated in 3D. And there were no hands, no feet, no face. So you had to get all that expression out of your flour sack. And it was very difficult. It's a hugely demanding performance piece. The typical animator testing would already have done some production for animation, and it still took that animator 2 or 3 weeks, like solid 8 hours a day, to produce a really finely done pencil test. And they're great. If you just go online and you see flour sack animations, some of them are genuinely really wonderful pieces. That was your test. And then the studio would go, okay, you understand all the principles, you understand drawing 3D, weight was a big part of it. But there was always, always, always an advanced test. And to pull that on an intro class, even an intermediate class, was just always kind of, ellipsis. Why are we doing this again? In an intro class? I experimented with it over the years, and I never had luck with it, hardly ever at all. Even in the advanced classes that I would run, where the students had already had 6 months or 9 months worth of 2D drawing animation experience, would falter and practically cheat or just not understand what they were doing. And I eventually dropped it. And when I got to Kenyatta, one of John's classes, they were just doing a flour sack, so that there would be a wall, and the flour sack would just be kind of sitting on the wall, and he would just drop down and land on the ground. And it's like, well, that was simple enough. I think that if you broke that flour sack down into little sections, you might be able to put together a really good test. And I had it in my notes. It's like, I think I might even talked about it when we introduced the class and saying the flour sack drop. But I think I'm going to overlook that. I think that what I would like you to do is just kind of maybe familiarize yourself with how many flour sack animations are out there online. An infinite number. And some of them are good. Some of them are just kind of, I don't know what I'm looking at. But I thought that what we would do today is just kind of take another look at the head turn and reaction and just talk about, reiterate some of the timing and make some changes to it. I always like seeing progress. I think that if any one in particular student was completely understanding and nailed any particular walk cycle, run cycle, and especially this head turn on the first take, I would have a ringer. It's like, hey, you've done this before, or you spent way too long doing your homework, something like that. And then the other thing was getting you into hopefully what will be your final for this class. And what I decided was to do a run, a catch, and a jump. And there's a couple of reasons why I like this. First of all, it doesn't have to be in that order. You can do anything you want, but you have to have a run, a catch, and a jump in your final. So in order to do that, you're going to need some kind of character design, and you're going to need some kind of thumbnail to guide you into what your final is going to be. I don't want any camera moves, but you can do cuts. You can do cuts. So I'm not going to go into the whole history of film and talk about the rules starting from the late 1920s, where the rules of cinema were written in stone. I'm not going to do that, which is an anomaly because I like doing that. I like putting in that film history. But I think that over the years, you as a group of students don't get as much out of that lecture as I would have hoped you had done. What I'm going to do right now, I believe that I put the deadline for this actual folder that we were working with till next week. Let me double check. So it is open until April 30th. I'm going to edit this. And make it till Friday of next week. I'll open it till the end of the next week, till May 7th, and save this. So that means that you can just upload right in that same folder, right on top of it. And so I don't think anyone's technically quite done. So let's take a look at it. Just a couple of things here. All right, so once again, this is where we had left it off. And I ended on a black card, and I want to turn looping off. All right, so let's just take a look at it from the top. This is very strange. I don't know where my loop button is. It just automatically loops. It's kind of annoying. All right, so he's looking, blinks, head turn, his reaction. All right, so, and I stopped it before it hit the black frame. So what I want to do is I want to add a couple of things here. So he's blinking, and I think that, remember we talked about the blink last week, and this is just one frame. It's just one frame. I alluded to the idea that if you go and look at 2D animation and then do like Richard Williams and then put in Blink, it might take you right to it. There's a long discussion that he has in his timing for animation book. And it's really strange looking search thing here. Let me switch it to images. Anyway, we talked about this last week just a little bit. In his book, he talks about how eye blinks are always 7 frames. And it's true, they can be 7 frames long. The eye is half open, 3/4 open, closed. It starts to come up closed, and then it's quarter open, and then 3/4 open. And so you start with the normal eye here, and then you end with a normal eye here, and you end up having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 eyes in your blink. But you don't need to do that. This is just a regular neutral blink. But in our example, he just blinks really fast. It's like bam, and it's fine. But what I think that we would like to do here is kind of look at this and say, let's take a look at the timing again. Because timing is a big thing in a study like this. All right, so what I'm doing is scrubbing it. I just want to get the impression of this very first few frames. And kind of like we had talked about before, what I'm thinking of doing is just saying, hey, let's create a drawing, add after, and then we're going to move that drawing. Oh yeah, I can't do that. Hold on a second. Okay, let's put it right there. We're going to add halfway. And I don't like that either. Hold on a second. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to extend this by 2 beats. I'm going to extend this by another 16 frames, which will take it out to 30 frames total. And now we're going to take a look at this again. So what we're seeing is this just by itself, doing nothing. And so before I do this, and it's not letting me add like 1 frame here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add an empty layer. And for just this first frame right here, I'm going to give myself a black card again. So just for that 1 frame. So what this does is it establishes nothing. So that when I hit play, it opens up. And we can see the timing. We can see what he's doing, this reaction. And then it ends on. So again, I don't want this to loop. There we go. All right. So let's take it from the top again. Something is strange with this layer here. This is the first time I've seen this red. I'm going to try to paint it again. That's very strange. It's not letting me do it. All right, let me figure out what's wrong here. All right, we'll try that. And for this layer, we'll just kind of move it up out of the way or something. All right, so once again, hit play. All right, so we did 2 really important things right there. And we're ending on the frame. I don't want it to cycle. Yeah, that's weird. It kills the card if I cycle it like that. All right. All right, so what I like this extra time that we've got, and what we've got now is about 175 frames. Let's do this just for 1 second. Never mind. Let's just go for it. All right, so what I want to do is I want to talk about the performance of this particular drawing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a different color here. And let's just pick this blue. That's the blue we were working with. I'm going to make this just a little darker. I'm going to rub this down just a little bit. Now, what I want to do is I want to remind everyone that one of the best things that you can do is just preserve what you've got and do this on a separate layer. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of add to this so that we can start to see where the form of this character is. And so what I'm going to do, and remember I kind of alluded to this last week, that I'm just going to draw this line. And then I'm going to go to the next keyframe. And I'm going to follow that line through. I don't want to copy and paste it. If I want to trace it back, it'll wiggle around a little bit. So this character is not moving right now. There he starts to move. So I'm going to go back. So I'm going to follow just that line, just this line right here. This is a slightly darker color. And the reason why I'm doing this is because this is the essence of animating straight ahead. So I just want this line right now, and I'm going key to key. So this line continues to move to the right just a little bit, and the arm is taking precedence now. There's a little crease right there. And then the arm kind of totally envelops it. And then we kind of see that line come back just a little bit, but it should be moving forward. And then continue. He's still moving forward a little bit. And now he's starting to move backwards. So let's double check and make sure that that was what we intended. So he's moving, oops, sorry, I went too far. He's moving forward here and forward, and now he's moving backwards. But I'm going to redirect that line a little bit because I think it's just a little much. And now this is kind of the stretch, the squash. So the whole thing is that this dynamic, everything about this pose should be as roundy and stretchy, squashy as possible. His face, his ear. So continue. This is the stretch now. So now that line comes here. So remember, we were over here for the normal pose. And so we're back now. And then it continues moving to the left. And now it's stay there. Now it's static. And now it's not moving at all. All right, so now we're going to be back at the first frame again. And now let's do that with his other side here. And we're just getting a general take on this dimension. So we want to make sure that he doesn't lose any girth. So we're drawing just this line right here. So this is the next frame. It doesn't move hardly at all. And then it starts to move to the right over here, but we didn't capture this one yet. So we're getting it to move to the right. Now we're getting it to move to the right and continue. And continue. And now he's still moving forward. I'm going to straighten that out just a little bit. Go backwards. He's going to now kind of give a gentle S shape to this curve. And now he's reaching the point where he's already, his arm is out. He's still going to the right just a little bit. This is the squash. So all the way out as you can. All the way out. You could even bring this whole thing like this if you wanted. And now he's going to return to the stretch and then back to where he was. So this drawing here was working for our rough. So continue. Now he's easing backwards to the left just a little bit and holding. So these are all holding. All right. And this is, let's see. Yeah, this is still holding. All right, so go back to this frame here. Now let's do the same thing with the exterior of this arm right here. And I don't really kind of like this pose. So I'm just kind of fix it a little bit. I don't want to do the the hand up on the hip or anything, but I think I just want more of a natural pose here. This was his cuff, remember, and his hand is going to be over here. This is the midline. So let's just go to the next keyframe. And I want to redirect this line as well with the cuff. And the next drawing. And so I'm redirecting this. If I go backwards, what I'm seeing here is that I would like to get my eraser out and just kind of rub this down just a little bit. You don't have to get rid of all of it, but I'm just kind of redirecting that arm position. Erasing it enough that I can still go back and touch it up if I needed to. All right, so now we're doing the away arm, his right arm, which is going to kind of come into us. And now we're redirecting this one. And now his arm is bending. So now we see the upper arm, the crease of his cuff, the lower arm, and continuing. I think there's one reason why I started with the edge of the body, because it's a good place to get your reference. All right, so if you were following along with what I was doing last week, what we're doing is adding. We're also tying this down. We're adding more of a tie down straight ahead. And one of the hardest things to do is to kind of talk and demo this at the same time, but that's okay. All right, so right now I can imagine this arm is getting a little thick right here. With a little crease in there. Remember that any amount of squash you can put on here is good. Get those elbows out as far as possible. Now they're straight down. Remember, we had fixed this last week because the arm was just too close to the body and we're getting a better silhouette. Continue. We're back to kind of where our neutral key was. Get the crease in there. And now it's relaxing. So let's go to the top and play this. All right, so I like that little pause at the end. What I'm also seeing here is that this pose here needs to be extended by a couple beats because he needs a blink. So actually, let's take this down a little bit and add a drawing after, right? And then add a drawing after, and then take, oh shoot, I didn't want to do that. Hold on a second. So for this one, we're going to copy and paste everything. Right, and then we're going to do it again. And we're going to copy and paste everything. But for this one, we're going to reduce it to just, we're going to do a 2-frame blink right here. And erase his eyes. And go back to your pencil. Put the blink in there. Bring the eyebrows down to all right, so what I did here was just operating just a little bit on intuition about timing. Right now we're pushing 8 seconds here of total animation. Let's take a look at what we've got. And a little blink there at the end. Okay, so I think this is working better for timing. And so what the thing I wanted to get at here was this. When you're working on this, you should see that this is a keyframe and that this was a keyframe. This is a blink. This is a keyframe. The squash is a keyframe. It's on 2s. The stretch is a keyframe. It's on ones. Its range is only, it's on twos, sorry. And then the return and the ease are all on 32 frames, and then 4 frames and 4 frames. I think that as long as you get the idea of this kind of timing, you'll be in a better place. So if you want to, one of the things that you might find helpful is to kind of write your screen direction on here. So what we're going to do is we're going to say hold. And what is he thinking? He's looking. So the verb is that he's looking. And then you go to the next keyframe. This, and you could just say blink. You could just write B for blink because he returns this. But then this is the turn. And you could remind yourself arc, right? So his head comes down. This is the end of the turn. And now he's looking. And you could write 2. And then looking hard, right? It was the hard look. And this is 27 frames. So that's what, 2.25. Next keyframe, obviously you already wrote squash, stretch, recoil, and then settle. And then the arm coming up. And I think that it's kind of strange to do this afterwards, but not, because when we get to this keyframe, this arm is all the way up. Our next keyframe is the blink here. But now this one you could also write thinking, what just happened? Like what? And then that's another thing that you can do as well, is like put the inner voice in here. So let's go back a couple of keyframes. And so the inner voice would be, holding, looking, neutral. And so in a different place, maybe even in a different color, you could write the inner voice. What is he thinking? So if you need it, just go through the keys and put it right here. He's just looking. There's no inner voice. Blink, there's no inner voice. It's the turn. So right here, he's looking. So this is lasting for 27 frames here. And he's like, the inner voice could easily just be, what the, right? And then on this one, I don't think you need anything because it goes by quickly. This is on for 4 frames, which is kind of unusual. The timing is for a squash is usually on for 2, and the stretch is usually on for 1, and then the recoil is on for 2 as well. But in this example, it just works this way. And now he's stunned, right? What did he just see? So if we go back a couple keyframes to this one, this what the, you might even want to say, old lady smashing a bus. And you could, and this could be whatever you want. And I think that what this lends to is my beginning discussion about generosity, because, that dictates what this is going to look like. What? Oh, there was a couple other things I wanted to mention when we were here. Let me go back to my blue. So when we have his eyes located off screen here, this is just a rough, but both of these are pinned to the edge of the eye line right there, which is fine. This one is off a little bit. I think I might have mentioned this last week, but this one starts to drift off of it. And you get that to read. I think that if you really, really wanted to, that on between this keyframe and this keyframe, you could even do like the copy and paste the whole body and drift it just really, really shallow and shortly, and then have his eyes move first. So break up this keyframe into 2 or 3 breakdowns and lead with the eyes. It's like you're kind of looking to his left. And then, so this would be like the intermediate position where the eyes would be about halfway, and then he would be blinking and his eyes would already be kind of pinned over here already. They're pinned to the away line, that's okay. He's leaning forward. Now he's squinting. This eye here could be more towards the middle so that he's concentrating on, what is he actually looking at? All right, squash, stretch. This is out in infinity. The trick with getting the stretch drawing is that he's like looking up into nowhere. Like, what? Remember, eyebrows are way up, and this is a very cartoony take. And now his eyes are still kind of like glazed. They're like, what? And then they return to some sort of normal. And in here, I think that what you can do is you can fix this a little bit. So I'm going to go through these keys and just kind of fix this left eye. All right, let's put that left eye back in there now, because this is still dazed. If I come over here, he's still dazed just a little bit. Next keyframe, pencil. Let's get this pupil out here so that he's not looking so close. And you can copy and paste it if you want, but let's just redraw it in the same place. You don't want to move one eye independently of the other, because then it looks creepy. Let's save this and kind of take a look at what we've got. Yeah, see, that eye's moving too much right there. So let's fix that. Between this and this. So I don't like this. Let's just kill this. And just get it to be right where it was. I believe this one needs to be fixed as well. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And this is here, so that's fine. Save. Let's see what we've got. Again, I think that I highly recommend a black frame to start with so that you're not looking at anything. You're not looking at something, and then play. Opens up. All right, so I think that you got the idea of how to get your timing working, how to get things moving independently of each other. One thing that I would, if I was continuing to work on this, is that I think that what I would like to see is him leading the turn with this arm. So I probably fixed this so that this arm was maybe even more neutral, so that he leans or he leads by moving that arm just a little bit to his left or right, so that he animates into this position at about this frame right here. Because I think that everything is moving just all at the same time. And even the little fixes I did on the lines for the body, the blink, when he blinks right here, everything moves all at the same time. And you don't want to distract your audience too much with that. But this overall timing is looking pretty good. Remember, we've only got a handful of drawings, but the idea is timing of those drawings. And the next phase would be is to go in here and break down these movements in here so that everything is not just not moving, so that everything is either being traced back or moving slowly. You don't want your animation to die. All right, so I'm going to save that. Do I have any questions about that before I go on? Anybody? Okay, so like I said, keep working on this. It can still be in the rough form. I forget who it was, emailed me a couple of days ago and said, hey, what kind of, are you looking for the lines to be cleaned up? It was Luis. And I said, no, leaving it in rough form is perfect. And this drawing right here, either one of them is fine for the line quality. I think it's really good, a very good animator's line quality. Let me see if I can drop that in the chat. I'm going to try to put just that JPEG in the chat. And it's there. So thumbnail sent successfully. Okay. So now let's take the last little half hour here and talk about our final. Your final. All right, so run, catch, and a jump. So the directions here, let's just write this down. Run, catch, jump. And this has become an animation standard for finals for an intro class. Sometimes it's even for an intermediate class. These can be in any order, but I think that what you need to do is you kind of need to think about what you want to do with this. And the first thing that you want to do is figure out your story. And for us, this is not going to be some like Hollywood script or anything. This is most of it, run, catch, jump, but you can do any number of other things that you would like. I would recommend not adding too much. We have 2 solid weeks of animation. Then we get into May 19th, which is the 3 weeks from today, which would hopefully be me giving all of you final pointers on what to do to make your final as awesome as possible for Wednesday, May 26th. So you can add a couple of things in here. Again, I think that the line quality can still just be like this. It doesn't have to be clean. I'm not gonna teach you how to clean up. So just keep it in that rough form that I just showed you. All right, run, catch, jump. So let's just kind of think about this. I'm going to do run, jump, rum. I'm thinking rum. Run, jump, catch, fall. All right, so he's going to catch whatever he's catching. He's catching it up in the air, and then he's going to fall. Let's pick another version here. So he's going to be standing, run, jump, catch, fall. In order to go from standing to run, he needs an anticipation right here. And so we'll start there. And remember, you can move this around and do anything that you would like, just as long as you have a run and a catch and a jump. These are all verbs. Animators always animate the verbs. Run, catch, jump, run, standing, anticipation, run, catch, fall, settle. All right, and again, I think that I am not looking for animation to be any more than this. It doesn't have to be on 2s or 1s. I just want to see what your timing is going to look like. So this is your story. And again, you can pick anything any order that you would like, as long as it has the run, the catch, and the jump in it. You could put a skip. You could try all kinds of things. You could have double bounce. You could have a walk instead of a run. You might want to. You could trade this out for a walk. It's easier to go from a run to a jump though than it is to go from a walk to a jump. All right, and then what you're going to need is just a simple design. And so, you can pick one of these, that little character that we just saw right there. That one's good. It's good to keep them bipedal. And you're not going to need the front, the side, the 3/4. Just get the main bones of the character. All right, we're borrowing that character. Just got it. All right, so that's simple enough, right? And it could be anything that you want. It could be your character. If you really want to try something like a character that's flying, that would be added up into here. And I would caution you, pick something that's bipedal. It's always going to be better. Some simple features. All right. So now the next thing you're going to need is thumbnails. All right. So we haven't talked about this yet. So one of the things that you could do to really distract yourself is, and it's funny that I thought I had that geometry tool here, but I don't, which is fine. The first thing that you would want to do is just think about where to start. Drawing thumbnails is an art all by itself. And one of the things that you can kind of do is just, how do you want this to be set up? One of the things that you can start to think about is that this whole stage is 16 by 9. And when you divide that up, you have your focal points. This should just be a reminder for you. And on this first thumbnail is the thing that you don't want to forget. Just put title card, right? So you would say, whatever you want, you know, pick your Bobby's Big Day. You can always change that later as a working title. And so when you're doing this thumbnail, keep it 16 by 9. And then you can kind of, and I would suggest doing it this way just because, but this is your first shot. And say, what is happening? So if he's standing, how do you want this to happen? How do you want this first shot to look? And I drew this storyboard panel just very lightly, because what you're going to need is you're going to need a map. And it's too bad I can't draw outside the frame here, but that's okay. So I'm just going to use this as my map. I'm just going to kind of obliterate my lines just a little bit, because I don't want to technically or empirically want to be drawing inside the box. So I got my pencil back here. So what is it? Bobby's right here. This is a top-down view. So what is he going to do? He's standing, anticipation, run, catch, jump, fall, settle. It would just be really easy for him to be standing here, and then someone's going to throw something at him. So he's going to catch something. He's going to catch a Frisbee. There we go. So he's going to start here. His anticipation is going to be back this way. That's our anticipation. And then he's going to run this way. And if you want, you can number these: A, B, C, D, E, F, G. All right, so this is A, B, C. We're already up to C. He's running. So let's just put a dot right here that he starts to run. He's going to jump over something. So if he's playing Frisbee, it could be that he jumps over a log. So and you could just write log right here to remind yourself. Maybe there's a log right here. There could also be a creek. It can be a log or a creek, or it could be anything. It could be a bench. Like if he's out in a park, right? So that's your setup here. Is it like he's in an outside park area? That it could be a bench. It could be a trash can. It could be anything. It could be a baby in a baby stroll. It could be anything you want. So then he's going to jump. So this is, the D is jumping. You could put the little thing right here. This is the D for jump. And he's going to catch it. But at the same time, when he's going to reach the top of his jump, he's going to catch it. He's going to land. So this fall here turns into a land and then a settle. So this E, F, and G. So there's a reason why I did it like this in the top-down view, because what you want to do is you want to set your camera up that's just a neutral, medium wide shot. So this is a medium wide shot. And this is your whole direction. This is what your whole final is going to be like. Again, you can do anything that you would like. I would like to see a copy of what I'm doing here in your own hand for next week, so I can help you with it. I'm going to copy, and I'm going to paste this into the next panel and move it over a little bit. I'm going to turn my onion skin opacity down all the way. So I want to draw this first shot, and the reason why I copied and pasted it, because I want to make sure that I get Bobby in the right place here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to imagine my focal points, just like that, my center, and then I'm going to give myself a background layer. So remember that you can cut if you want. So if we go back to here, you can say in this whole setup here, if I put a camera right here to capture the jump and the catch a little more cleanly into either a mid shot, and then I can cut back to this view here to show the landing and the settling. That means that this is camera 1, this is camera 2, this is camera 3. And so what I can do is, now that I'm kind of thinking aloud, is I'm just going to take this and I'm going to kill this, and I'm going to paste this that has the more complete. And then what I can do is I can say, I'm going to add I'm going to add a layer here. And this layer is just going to be my background layer. So background layer. And I'm going to extend this out a couple of frames. And I'm going to draw right here so that it doesn't interfere with anything. And I can go backwards. I can go back to this panel here, and then I can go out to here and say, what does my park look like? I remember my focal points. I'm going to give myself just hold on. I want to give myself a horizon about the third. I'm just going to draw roughly. Again, I'm on my background layer. I'm going to put the vanishing point off center this time and give myself a little perspective grid. Remember that there's perspective in the sky. So get the perspective in the sky. All right, focal points. So consider your size. I think that it would be fine if our lead character is just about this size. Head, line of action, standing neutral. I'm going to bring him down a little bit. Just a little too high in the shot. I'll also make him a little bigger. Give him some attitude. He's just kind of leaning there. This hand is up on his elbow. This hand is kind of neutral. So that's my first shot right here. And I've given myself lots of room to play with over here. You know, at this point, if I'm on my background, I just locked this drawing in here, but that's fine. This ends up becoming a layout. So if you put the background and the characters together, it becomes a layout. So if we go back to what our original drawing here, what we were looking at was, what is he going to jump over? A creek, a bench, baby carriage. So go back to your main drawing here. And again, this is just the layout. And so he's going to take his anticipation. It's going to be about this far backwards. And he's going to start to run. So the thing that he's going to jump over should be about right here, right about the lower right focal point. I'm just going to make it a bench. So I'm following the rules of my perspective. I can touch that up later. All right, so as long as this is a layout, then what you want to do is you want to say, this is my arc of motion for the anticipation. And so remember, you can number these. This is your A position. And the anticipation position is always opposite of the main action. So if he's going to run and jump over this bench, his anticipation is always opposite. So what is he going to do? He's going to keep the weight on his right foot. So get the line of action to point at that right foot and get his, you could do this in a different color. You get the knee to bend a little bit, and this knee can come up off the ground. This arm is going to take on the weight of the anticipation, and this arm is going to do the same kind of thing. So you're just going to have to trust me that it works. This is a big, broad anticipation. That's fine. And so then you're going to have a couple of steps. I think that it might have been better to take, oops. I think it might have been better to put this bench just downwards just a little bit. Something like that. Something like that. Okay, good. So then we go to the run. And so you're just going to need a couple of steps. Head, line of action. That's your, this is A, B, C. The D is him jumping. And so again, you can just pick a different color. And how far is he going to jump up? So get your arc of motion. He's going to leap over the bench. So bring his head up. It's in the side view, which is fine, line of action. So he's leaping over. And this arm is reaching out to try to catch the Frisbee. And so it might be more interesting that if he catches the Frisbee this way. So this, and so he catches it and he's going to land. So in this layout here, you can go to another frame and do a close-up if you want, and then, so he would capture the Frisbee sometime around here. He would land about right here. So it would be interesting to do all of this in one shot. Everything is laid out pretty cleanly. And then cut to a drawing afterwards, or a drawing that is more like this. So the idea would be is that now you're going to draw him here. You're just going to copy that same pose. And sometimes in animation, you kind of have to see whether this is going to work or not, because the danger would be, and you're just going to have to believe me on this one, that in our first layout here, he's going from A to B to C to D position, and his head is all the way over here. So that when we get to this position, this is the D position. And the danger would be is that you've generated an anticipation and a jump that's all going to the right direction, stage left, our direction right. But the danger would be is that it looks like he's going backwards. So you want to make sure that this is as different of a scale as possible, just so that it doesn't look like he's going backwards. And sometimes all you can do is do a pencil test. Sometimes all you can do is maybe even close up on this. And then you can make yourself for note. You're still in the layout mode. This might be fun if you do this in slow-mo, right? Just make a note for yourself, slow motion right here, and then add a drawing afterwards. And then he's going to land. And so now if you have him in the next position, landing on the right and upper right and lower right focal points, the bench is now, let me go to do this one. So the bench is going to be like right here. And then in this position here, the bench can continue to move off to the right. You'll have to see if it works. And then he's going to land here. This is full shot. So now his landing position is going to be like a pick right here. And so you're on background 3. So his head is going to get your arc of motion. His head is going to come all the way down. His line of action is squashing. He's basically squashing. So get this arm up and backwards. It was over here, so now it's up and backwards. This arm is catching the Frisbee. It's bringing it down. This leg is all the way out. This leg can be kind of towards the camera. I don't think that I want to put it this way. It would be too much like a frog. But just a good little squash right there. You can make a note for yourself. Squash. And then you're still in layout mode. So the settle now would be more to, oh, and so this is good that we can see this because this is too big. So let me scale this down just a little bit. And then this is too small. So we can scale it up so that it fits our original. So that there's a bigger difference there between, well, oops, sorry. Okay, and then here, so this is him landing. And the settle is here. So his head's coming up. And make sure that this foot is kind of in the same place where it lands, and that this foot now can drag backwards. This arm, which was bent, is going to just ease into a normal position. And just kind of, how do you want him to hold the Frisbee? And then he's going to maybe look at the guy who threw it over there. All right, so having done that, what you can do is you can work in some other details. If we're in a city park and you're still in your layout mode here, you've got some things to work with. So what I would recommend is kind of thinking about just something simple, a tree. So just get the trunk of a tree, draw the leaves of the tree, Maybe there's another tree over here that's a little bit closer. Watch your perspective, and then all you see is the leaves and maybe a little branch out here like that. And then you can put in some cityscape if you want. Just keep it simple. You'll have to think about this is your horizon. You'll have to think about what's behind him. Maybe it's still just this little silhouette of bushes and trees and a couple of houses or a rec center or something like that. Figure out what the background is going to look like for your close-up. This is a mid shot. So here, I don't know if you need anything. The park bench is as much of a payoff as you need. This tree will be bigger. So for continuity's sake, you could just bring that tree a little bit more to the left. And then for your final shot, which is here, you can still borrow the same kind of layout that you had to begin with. You have to make sure that you're not getting any tangents. The park bench is over here, your horizon is over here. All right, so you got 3 backgrounds, the full background, the full layout, the close-up, which is really simple, and then how it animates. And this is just one example. It can be, you can handle this any number of different ways. The whole key is making sure that this is kind of like your script. In animation, our script is always animating the verbs. Animators always animate the verbs. And so write it out in verb form first. You could just use this. And make sure, so we did our character design here and right on the same layer. It's like, it gets a little confusing. But what you can do next week is instead of uploading a movie of this, just be prepared next week to share your screen, right? So next week, you're just going to share your screen, and then I can pause it and just draw right over it in Zoom if I need to. So how are you going to lay out your shot? What do you want to have happen? You need a run, a catch, and a jump. Standing, anticipation, run, jump, catch, land, settle. 3 backgrounds at the most. If you want, you can only use 1. That would be fine. I would expect as much artistic license from you as possible. Think about it. I'm going to stop recording. Your take itself, your reaction, your squash and stretch can be just very neutral, very live action looking, almost like you're like, what? Like your mama just told you that you got into Yale. What? How are we going to afford Yale? That kind of thing. It could also be as cartoony as I did. If you're working on 2 things for next week, I'm going to make sure that you have a good range, that you have a project that is around 8 to 10 seconds long, something like that. I remember that our head turn was coming in at 8 seconds, but there was only like 8 drawings in there. 8 plus the blinks and stuff. All right, everyone okay? Any questions? Okay, got a thumbs up. All right, so again, I'll be asking you to share your screen next week. I'm not going to put up another assignment in the assignment area. If I do, it'll just be for late or missing work or something. But this is you now being creative. So don't be afraid of being creative. Just be an artist. Yeah, be an artist. Have fun with it. You'll know you're doing it right if you're having fun with it. And just to end, remember that you can do that run, catch, and jump in any order. Your character could be standing there and he catches something and then runs. You can do it any order you want. You could add a couple of different things in there. And anything you want, be creative.
I've got a question. Can you have the character like use his hand when he goes to jump on something, like
Sure,
jump over it?
absolutely.
He could, okay. Like
Sure.
touches it and then leaps over it or something.
Absolutely. Wait, no, everyone else can except you. Aw. No, you can do whatever you want. Yeah, that's fine. You know you're doing it right if you're having fun with it. If you're struggling and thinking and erasing and going back, then you're doing it wrong. Think about it for a while first before you start putting any marks on paper or digital paper. And we'll see you next week. Okay, ciao now. Ciao for now, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Billy.
Okay, bye.